Okay. Wow, you all came out on a winter night. That's pretty impressive. I thought maybe it'd just be me and Janice and Jennifer, but this is really great. Thank you so much for coming out. It's Friday, February 7th, 2025. Welcome to Fishtrap Fireside. Fishtrap Fireside is our monthly reading series for local writers to read and share their work. In case you haven't been here before, it's always a fun variety pack to see what people in Wallowa County and nearby are thinking about and writing down. My name's Mike. A special welcome to all of you who maybe this is your first time coming to Fishtrap, or maybe first time coming to Fishtrap Fireside. We're super happy to have you here. And of course, all of you folks warm and cozy in your houses watching at fishtrap.org or at Fishtrap's YouTube channel, we're happy to have you here too. Here's how Fireside works. Every month we invite 3 featured readers to come on up and share a story, share something that they've written, poems, whatever they want to do. Each of them gets about 10 minutes, and it's always a surprise to see what happens and fun to hear that. I always try to get like a variety pack of people of different ages and experiences, orientations. This month is really fun. Our first reader tonight, and welcome these people for coming. He and his family drove from LeGrand to get here this evening. Gregory Rawlins is our first reader. If you don't know him now, you will soon. He's a super cool guy. I like him a lot. Robin Pace is here tonight. Yep. And John Rombach is reading tonight, so that's a blast. Right. Afterwards, we'll take after the 3 readers finish, we'll take an intermission where you can go back here and refill your cup, refill your plate, get to know somebody maybe that you haven't talked to for a long time or don't know. And then we come back after about 10 minutes for the open mic section of the evening. And the open mic section is we give 5 people up to 5 minutes to do whatever they want. And we have, 3 people signed up for the open mic right now, so there are a couple spots left. If you, during this reading, all of a sudden say, gosh, maybe I scribbled a poem last week, or I want to tell a story, up to 5 minutes. And put your name down. It's great. What else do I have to say? Before we get started, it's important to note that each month we have a sponsor for Fishtrap Fireside. This sponsor this month is Diane Daggett of Ruby Peak Realty. So thanks, Diane. I think this might, And of course, thanks, I put it in capitals, thanks to all of you who support Fishtrap, whether you're a monthly supporter as part of Fishtrap's Fishtrapper program, if you give a yearly donation, or even if you just stuff a couple bucks in the carved fish at the end of the night, it really helps us keep programs like Fishtrap Fireside going. So it's a big deal. Okay, let's get to our first reader. Gregory Rawlins, I really like this guy. He's a mensch. We connected. Gregory Rawlins was born in lush and rainy Port Orchard, Washington. And when he wasn't building forts or popping wheelies, he was marveling at the beauty of the natural world. Through a love for poetry and theater, Rawlins began writing and performing his homespun songs in the mid-2000s and has not looked back. Dig this. He's recorded 15 full-length records. From folk to hard rock to experimental, nothing seems off the table for exploration. Gregory says, I see so many parallels between going for a hike and wandering through the studio searching for an untapped wilderness of expression. Both places replenish me, give me joy, and are for the most part good for my health. Rawlins also teaches language arts and drama at North Powder Charter School. So please, welcome to Wallowa County, Gregory Rawlins.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Every time I come to Wallowa County, I am more and more in awe of the love and support, especially for the arts, because I think that's where I reside, so I see it firsthand. But Thank you so much. It means so much to me. And it's not always the case for other places, and so thank you very much. I'd like to read several that are inspired by my hometown, the rainy and lush Puget Sound. This first one is called Fixed Closeness of Old Pilings. Dead end of summer lurches toward low tide. The rotten fists of Purdy Lagoon have risen to expose the warming grime. Through sword fern and salal, he tumbles to collapse, at last in our backyard, winded and barely conscious. My older brother is bloodied, his blue jeans torn, and mall shirt he bought with lawn mowing cash irreparably stretched, too big now to fit his hunkered frame of sweat and sand. A friend of the neighbor boy had stomped up our cul-de-sac and mashed my brother's face into his own intimate earth. My brother, the coward, retreated. But instead of solace, it is our father at the door, who listens to sobs and spots some lacerating fog, impossible in the midday heat. The cloudless sky cut itself, and from the suture seeps the extract of thunder, one's own green blackberries plucked above a blonde yard. Dad grabbed him by the slackened collar, dragged him down the steps, and told him not to bother returning if this is how you want to be treated for the rest of your life. I remember how honey-drenched the days were before, and how, in a moment, the honey boiled. It warped the windows and coated my brother in untouchable golden coils. By the time he reached the neighbor's fence to confront the bully, my brother was at a full sprint, his fists bouquets of strange obsidian. They disappeared into dust, and he didn't stop swinging until his victim was limp. Lumbering back, eyes fixed on the ground, like I'd seen him once after conquering Upper Lake Lena, except here he has no backpack, no flushed face of glass, nothing to say to any of us, and is weeping. That's that. Still to this day, the greatest implosion in the history of the world was the Kingdome in Seattle. The most concrete that's ever been blown toward itself. So, this is called The Day the Kingdome Fell. Like a Hail Mary as regulation expires, the bottom right-hand corner clock wound down to 0. 18 miles away, in a house in the forest, we leaned forward, us kids done with our cereal, Mom and Dad holding mugs with both hands, unsure if what we were about to see wouldn't bust our television. From Pioneer Square to First Hill, desolation ran wild. I-5 and 99 were drained, swept clean. Only garbage drew close and shuddered at how the morning seized. Seattle hadn't been so hush in 200 years. Then, out of a still frame under a blue March sky, the detonations commenced. A series of radial fractures of far-off crackles. What feet might make on a mostly frozen puddle. Blasts ran seamless and surged from our speakers like poor radio reception and frightened tin roofs. In moments, the great dome had broken and buckled. Plumes of muscular dust barreled outward, their fresh gray hips and shoulders pumping. Around our neighborhood rang the celebratory dirge, guns, car horns, and firecrackers. And all I kept picturing was the endangered memory of holding tight to my father's belt loop as he led me through royal blue and evergreen, the shifting seas, swaying fronds of fans, and post-game beggars toward the Bremerton Ferry. Those strange and wild nights through the city, voice hoarse and belly full of concessions, so dreamily tired and knowing if I lost my grip, I'd never be found. Okay, I think I might have time for one more as a prose poem in 2 parts. We're going to end on a touch of a high note here. This is called Recognition. Part 1. We called it Milwaukee's Beast because it got you good and drunk and because it tasted like cold piss from a mangy bear. My first interaction with the Beast was at a house party, some manufactured single-wide several miles down a dead-end dirt road. I barely knew anyone there. Luckily, the Beast has a way of demolishing social barriers. By my fresh standards, it seemed like a great party. I removed my shirt. I got lost in the bathroom. I danced to expletive-laced underground hip-hop with complete strangers. What a bash. It seemed like it went all night, but who could really tell? The Beast has been known to tamper with the hands of ours, if not stop them completely. We counted our cans back then, like great stinking mountains conquered. I think I summited 6 times. I was certainly feeling the elevation changes. Out of nowhere, the party came to a sudden close, as I was either cordially asked to leave or forcibly removed. Your guess is as good as mine, for the Beast is notorious for stomping out memories like brush fires. A buddy drove me home. He helped me out of his car. He even walked me to the front door and into the living room. He wished me luck as he sent me off into a land of spinning, tilting confusion. I didn't have far to go, just down the hallway to my room, yet one directly across from my parents. It was during those final steps that the Beast intervened one last time and ricocheted me along the corridor like some pebble carelessly cast down a deep, narrow well. I think I knocked a few paintings down. Part 2. Very early the next morning, I woke up to the sound of an idling pickup outside my window and my father staring down at me, telling me to get dressed. You and I are going logging. We spent all day in the forest, dropped a large Doug fir, bucked it into rounds, then split and stacked them neatly in the truck bed. Each time I vomited, my father handed me the water jug. Drink is all he'd say. I'd rinse the bile from my mouth, then take several whimpering gulps. Once, when he disappeared into the bushes to take care of business, I laid down on the mossy floor, wishing I could just disintegrate into the earth. Just break down and, like a little leaf, and peacefully expire into Mother Nature's bosom. By the early afternoon, somehow, we topped off at a full cord. About the same time, I felt like I had sweated out the last of my impurities and finally reached some semblance of normalcy. We climbed into the cab of the truck. He turned the key. Some David Allan Coe came crooning low through the one working speaker. The sun broke through the trees. A scatter of droplets clinging to surrounding branches glittered and winked their magical prisms. That old power wagon growled and gurgled to life with the new, hefty gift bestowed on its back. Then my father reached behind the seat and pulled out a couple cans of Rainier. I wasn't sure what he had planned, but he handed me one, and so we toasted. I took a sip. I smiled. I drank heartily. It tasted like a carbonated downpour of gold medals, a new day, and the legendary breasts of my 8th grade math teacher, Miss Jones.
Thanks, Gregory. If you ever, he also plays Toonsmith and comes and plays music here, so keep an eye out for Gregory Rawlins in the future. Thank you for making the trip, and your family. I put together, or we, Fishtrap, put together writing workshops online and in person throughout the year. A lot of people are like, man, I have a book in me. I've been working on this book. I think I can write a book. I want to write a book. I found this guy named J.B. Kish, who is teaching a 1-hour online workshop on February 26th called, get this, Project Managing Your Novel, How to Write a Book in 10 Months or Less. He thinks he can give you folks the skills, he knows he can give you the skills to just like be organized in writing a book. So if you're interested in that, it's online. It's on Wednesday, February 26th. You would register at fishtrap.org to see what J.B. Kish. I think registration is only $20, so it should be fun. And then there's an in-person workshop here in March on Saturdays, March 1st, 8, and 15, with Susan Peshti-Strobel. It's a memoir workshop called Family of Strangers, a confluence of life stories. So if you want to get together with people and work on those stories, that would be great. And a reminder that summer Fish Trap registration opens in a couple weeks on the 25th of February. We have a great lineup this summer, so check that out. Okay, let's get to our second reader, Robin Pace. Robin Pace is a weaver of many things: words, water, time, and one day maybe even textiles. She grew up splitting time between the rural high deserts of Nevada during the school year and Wallowa County on her Graham's farm in the summers. In college, she created her own degree, which combined psychology, public health, and was centered around American Sign Language. After graduation, thanks to a suggestion from a dear friend, Robin began working for Winding Waters River Expeditions. 13 years later, she has only grown more captivated by the power of waters and the depths that they carve. If you find Robin in the county, she might be dancing, sewing boats, or laughing with friends. Otherwise, she's downriver, riding by headlamp, sweeping the canyon for a story, and popping up a mighty fine kitchen on the banks. Welcome, Robin Pace.
Thanks, everybody. It's always such a pleasure to be here with all of you. In preparation for this year's Fireside, I couldn't come up with a better place to begin than acknowledgement to and gratitude for the ancestors. Those of this land, my own, as well as all of yours. Those patient enough to share story, lessons, a listening ear, and knowledge to help us find our own way. If there are any well and healed ancestors interested in joining us tonight around this proverbial fire, welcome. To name some of the many who had a hand in my being here: Anne and Clyde Hayes, Jack and Dot Pace, Arvella Cook, Grace and Harry Bartlett, Alfred Butterfield, James and Ceci Hayes, Ora, Helen, and Beulah Pace, Winifred and Lewis Reynolds, Robert and Mary Sawyer, Alzenia Hayes, the river, and this earth's own salty womb, the sea. There are many more, just as you too have many more. So many more than you could name. We could sit together for days, you and I, sharing names of all those whose hands nourished us. The naming is important. More so, the recognition that we as individuals, potent as we may be, did not suddenly and singularly arrive. We did not burst forth from the ether, first, only. If you forget all else spoken tonight, remember this: you are not the beginning. You will not be the end. You are not Ishi, last of lineage, language, and way of greeting the morning. May we all work to ensure there are no more Ishis, no more singular beings, and if there are, shame on us. That lesson learned before need not be swallowed again. We are here together in this room, on this live or recorded stream, in this town, on this earth. May we remember we are as cyclical and intertwined as water. It's been falling all day outside. Just there. Thanks be to snow. All right, now that we're good and heavy, let's take a breath. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whew. So last week, I nearly ate cougar sliders. Yes, cougar, as in the animal, the four-legged kind, for those of you thinking otherwise, and sliders, as in the sandwich. This particular version was Sloppy Joe, and so I am told, was delicious. To be clear, I did not pass over the slider option due to squeamishness. After all, I ate the chili. There simply wasn't space on my plate to plop a slider. It was brimming with bighorn sheep mac, bacon-wrapped pheasant, steelhead steaks, duck poppers, elk stuffed manicotti, orange goose, smoked salmon, deer something or other, bison a multitude of ways, and yes, cougar chili. The rest I can't remember, but I ate it all, and I can tell you, it was delicious. The occasion was the Idaho Outfitters and Guides Association annual potluck. It is put on after a day of lobbying at the Idaho Capitol for all of the legislature, their aides, and family members. Don't worry, attendance is not mandatory, but there was not an available seat in the room. Everything served to the over 180 persons in attendance was harvested, prepared, and plated by Idaho Outfitters and Guides. It wasn't a requirement to try everything, but most did. The dinner and the table talk was a fitting showcase of what full circle can mean. I was in attendance because I'm an Idaho Outfitter, just as I am an Oregon Outfitter, because, as it turns out, rivers care little for such affiliations as state borders. Thankfully, rivers do generally adhere to the boundaries of canyon walls. Some of the issues IOGA, Idaho Outfitters and Guides, was lobbying for included better and more thoughtful allocation of outfitter hunting tags. Spoiler alert, they want fewer tags for themselves. Removal of the lower 4 Snake River dams in a way and with planning that supports alternative means of water and transportation for those industries currently utilizing the reservoirs locked behind said dams. It should be noted, however, that although there are alternatives to hydropower, barge shipping, and irrigation, there is no alternative to steelhead, sockeye, or Chinook salmon runs. If the fish die, so too do all of the businesses and industry which rely on them, my own being just one. To be fair, most of my business relies on recreation rather than fishing. However, the loss of salmon would impact many businesses beyond the direct hit to outfitters and guides. Not to mention the entire river ecosystem is healthier when salmon are present. Birth, death, and decay are integral to the nourishment of the salmon and Snake River waterways. Let us not forget the Grand Ronde, Imnaha, Wallowa, Minam. The list goes on. I won't delve too deeply into the weeds regarding all of the topics discussed, but thought it important to share a bit of what IOGA is working for and towards. To highlight that for most, the relationship between outfitter or guide and the land is not a vacation, but a prolonged and ongoing conversation, a relationship, brimming with deep understanding, respect, and a lot of tending, whether it be done on foot, raft, mule, horseback, jet boat, or otherwise. As you may have picked up on, there was a lot to think about as I scooped another small portion of chili onto my plate. One of the many questions in my mind being, could something like this be pulled off in Salem? Could the full, broad, and complex conversations be held with the same reverence? Would as many children under 10, or adults for that matter, say yes, I'll try, to any number of dishes? Would they eat cougar sliders? My queries are not a critique, but rather an acknowledgement that such a dinner, conversation, and day of lobbying does not currently occur in Oregon. For the record, I do believe such a dinner and day could happen. This belief isn't whimsical, nor did it arrive lightly. Rather, it is rooted in over a decade of guiding, of bringing people together around a table under the sky, often with shoes off, toes wiggling, in sand, or powdered in dirt, or nimbly picking up rocks and shells before dropping them back down. My belief is built from the flexed muscle of witnessing people in the discomfort of sheer visibility, of overwhelming smallness, and unbounded joy. It is buttressed by years of my own tears and allowing strangers to see them. Tears of joy or heartache from laughter or from gratitude for all those on whatever trip we may be on together. My belief is built from the pure pleasure of dipping oars in water, of occasionally getting smacked sideways by a wave when I'm riding a bit too high. My belief is sustained by the fortune of getting to know people without the barrier of their daily mask on, of locking eyes with those whom bring food to the table. Should you tell me you're going to go on a river trip, it would be a lie for me to say I wish you ease, because I don't. I wish you movement and growth, curiosity, discomfort, perhaps a good and thorough dousing from a rainstorm to highlight that you will, in fact, not melt. That you remember you are hardier than you think. I wish you deep conversation, play, laughter, and tears. The chance to disconnect in order to reconnect. Person to person, person to place, and person to pulse. Your own lifeblood. Cyclical, brought forward by so many before you, and so many more to come after. With that, real quick, I would like to give a hand to everyone here at Fishtrap who helps make this possible so that we can all be around this fire together. So if you'll join me for just a moment, thank you to all of them for what they do so that we can be here. Lastly, and as a shameless plug, both for myself and for Fishtrap, I encourage you to consider joining any of their outposts this summer, whether that be on the Zoom wall in, I believe, late June, or personally, if you would like to come join a bunch of mostly clean river guides on the Snake River in September with Anna Maria Spagna. Spagna. And I promise we won't serve cougar chili. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I do like collaborations. You've probably heard me say this before, when Fishtrap and other organizations partner together to put on an experience that's bigger than both of us. And right, for years, Fishtrap and Winding Waters Rivers Expeditions has had a trip in September 3 through 8, where we bring a writer on the river, and they float down Hell's Canyon and be inspired by the natural world and get to hang out with people like Robin. Speaking of that, next weekend is the 28th, I think, Winter Fishtrap gathering. What is Winter Fishtrap? Well, since 1998, Fishtrap has taken on issues that are important to citizens of the West. We've have a theme each year. One year it was dams. One year it was water. One year it was new wealth in the Old West. Well, this year's theme is, what is the West? It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next weekend. You could sign up and be a part of the whole weekend. Includes food, or you can pick a conversation that you want to be a part of. Let me just highlight a few of these things. On Friday, February 14th, it's Valentine's Day. You can make Winter Fishtrap your date night, I guess, and with an opening reception and keynote presentation on the stories we tell about the West. What are the stories that we tell about the West? With a Native American author and emeritus professor from the University of Montana, one of our favorite people, Deborah Magpie Erling. She's a remarkable human being. Then on Saturday, February 15th in the morning, Kathleen Ackley from the Wallowa Land Trust is doing a conversation topic on who owns the West. Ooh, boy. The voices, the panelists are new Wallowa County Commissioner Lisa Collier, Bobby Connors, the director of the Temuscallic Cultural Institute, Jeff Fields, program manager at the Nature Conservancy, and Adam Swords, who is a historian from the University of Idaho who's published many books on the West. Thanks for sticking with me with this, because this is an all-star cast, and I just want to share it with all of you. Wallowa Resources leads the afternoon topic, Who Lives and Works in the West? With Mike Hayward, Wallowa Resources board member and former county commissioner, Liza Jane McAllister from Sixth Ranch, a lot of you know Liza Jane, and Winding Waters Medical Clinic CEO Nick Powers. That should be a powerful panel. And then Saturday night, a week from tomorrow, we're having the Best of the West storytelling and Dutch oven potluck dinner. You can hear stories from some of our local favorites like Janie Tippett and Pam Royce and others, and eat delicious. We all know that Wallowa County potlucks are the best, right? So I encourage you to do that. You could bring your best Dutch oven dish or something else and vote for your favorite. The top vote getter will win a beautiful glass, handcrafted glass from Moonshine Glass. It's a lot of glass. And Winter Fishtrap concludes Sunday morning with something I think is pretty spectacular and will be memorable. It's a conversation narrated by Shannon McNerney on what is the West from the indigenous perspective. Listen to these people who are going to be voices that are going to be on this panel. Bobby Connor, who I also mentioned, Deborah Magpie Erling, Nez Perce language instructor Kirsten Parr, and JC So Happy from the Wallowa Nez Perce homeland. It should be amazing. You can take a look at the whole thing at fishtrap.org and pick one or come to the whole thing. It's coming up next weekend. Thanks for your patience. We're kind of proud of this program. Okay, let's get to our third reader, John Rombach. Before, I don't know, do you think your folks are watching online? Hi, Marianne. Hi, Jim. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well and that you would come visit this summer. It'd be great to see you. John Rombach was a columnist for The Chieftain for a while there, if you remember his column. His composting toilet essay, Dealing with It, was published in Mother Earth News, Utne Reader, and Rhetorical Context Readings for Writers. A book project titled, I Don't Know How Deep the River Is Right Here. Testimony of a Whitewater Rafting Guide has been on slow simmer for years, and the title is currently about as long as a whole draft. So, welcome. It's been 5 long years since John has been up here, so give him a big round of applause.
Yeah, probably. Thanks, Rich. Yeah. I think you're right, yeah. Hey, Seamus. I'd like to talk about love letters this evening. Valentine's Day is looming, so it seems timely. I was walking toward the Wallowa Lake Lodge backyard for a summer fish trap evening extravaganza years ago. Saw Pam Royce in the parking lot. We started talking about sourdough starters, then somebody I'd never met came up to say hi to Pam. She introduced us by saying, "This is John. He writes love letters to Wallowa County in the local paper." If you'd asked me at that moment how many love letters I had written in my life, I would have said probably 2 or 3, and one of those was about a boat. I'd been doing columns in the Chieftain for about 10 years by then, but the well had lately started to show signs of a shrinking water table. I had to crank on the handle once in a while just to get a column idea to come out. Some of those I was pretty sure I recognized and might have used already. So I'd been thinking about taking a break. Maybe I'd finally documented every aspect of Wallowa County potluck culture that anthropologists would need in the future to understand our ways. Pam's comment rolled around in my brain until I decided she might be right. Maybe I was writing love letters. And just this slight little tweak and perspective on what I thought I was doing got me finding water again. I'm not saying those columns were any good, I just had fewer staring contests with empty pages. People go to Fishtrap for a lot of reasons, but I think one is the hope that so many creative folks in one spot will spark up a storm of putting words together that builds on itself and creates its own weather until ideas start shooting out like embers. And if you're lucky, you catch a stray to take home with you. And just being one link in the chain reaction of so much focused energy should get your own writing molecules moving faster. It worked for me anyway, and I hadn't even left the parking lot yet. So thank you, Pam. Thanks, Fishtrap. That was perfect timing for me. Kept me going for another 3 years. That was good timing, but unbelievable timing was how I got started at the Chieftain. I didn't go to journalism school. I went to El Bajío. I had just quit my job at the radio station, KWVR 92.1 FM and AM 1340. Just ready to try something different. My mom and dad came to visit right after I quit, just right after I quit. We went to Leo's for enchiladas, and after some chips and salsa, there was a little pause, and my folks asked real politely what my plan was now for a job. And that's a fair question. I said, well, I'm going to go visit the baño, and I'll be right back. Planning isn't really my strong suit. In fact, I don't even own a suit. I just figured something would come up, but I was guessing my folks were hoping to hear a more detailed business plan than that. So as I'm walking to the bathroom, I see Dave Hassler, editor for the Chieftain at the time. He asked me the same thing, what's my plan? Did I want to be a reporter? He'd had somebody quit, needed help right away, and I could start Monday. I said, yeah, sure. I went and washed my hands, came back, unfolded my napkin, and told Mom and Dad I'd recently decided to go into the newspaper business. Just incredible timing. And I do love that about Wallowa County. Sometimes a polished resume is less important than who you run into in town. A lot of business gets conducted in the produce aisle. But the reporting did not go great. It turns out that is hard. That job was not my destiny. The only part I liked was writing about whatever I wanted in the column they let me do. When I threw in the towel, Hassler asked if I'd keep writing columns. I said, absolutely. I was a big fan of reading Dave Barry columns in the Sunday Oregonian as a kid. I just could not believe this was a real job for somebody. Dave Barry probably got paid more than $50 a column like Rich and Barry and I got. But I wasn't in it for the $50. I would have paid more than that sometimes just to get the word out on something that really floated my boat. Like this next thing I'd like to read to you. If I had the stamina of Rich Wanschneider and was still writing columns, this one would write itself. Dear Helen Johnson, I recently purchased Ziploc twist and lock containers. This is a wonderful product for storing supper leftovers, such as spaghetti with carrot wheels and parsley. The packaging says it's a great size for pudding, yogurt, parfaits, and salsa. Also baked goods for friends. And crafts? I had not thought of these possibilities. If you are able, please share more creative and useful ways to use these versatile storage vessels. I'd be grateful. Thank you. Mike Midlow, Enterprise, Oregon. Mike did say he likes collaboration, so that's perfect. Dear Mike, thanks for getting in touch. Letters like yours are favorites here at SC Johnson. It's always rewarding to hear our products have earned a preferred place in your home. I made sure to forward your comments to the rest of the team so they too may know their efforts are appreciated. As you mentioned, these handy containers can be used for many things. You can start an herb garden, store the pieces to a board game, store crayons or markers, small holiday decorations in the off-season. Of course, there are many more ideas to explore. If you have access to the internet, please visit ziploc.com and click on Inspiration. And thanks for your loyalty. A booklet of savings is enclosed. It features coupons for a variety of SC Johnson products. We sincerely appreciate hearing from you. Have a wonderful day. Gail, Consumer Relationship Center, SC Johnson, a family company. Dear Helen Johnson, recently my friend Mike Midlow of Enterprise, Oregon, wrote to express his appreciation for Ziploc twist and lock containers and ask about more ways to store stuff. I am also an enthusiast of these containers, Helen. Did you know a can of pineapple tidbits exactly fills one twist and lock tub? It amazes me every time. But Helen, when my friend heard back from his letter, it was from somebody named Gail. Who is Gail, Helen? Do you still have a job there, Helen? Is everything okay in Racine? Great job on the containers. Let me know if things are cool with Gail. Your pal, John Rombach. Dear John, thanks for your letter. We're happy to hear you love our containers. We appreciate your loyalty and hope you enjoy the enclosed coupons to pick up some more Ziploc containers or bags. As for Helen, she's a fifth-generation Johnson who is very interested in consumer comments on our products. However, Helen is one of only a few Johnsons in this privately owned worldwide company. And as you can imagine how busy she is, she may be anywhere in the world at this moment. So she has a staff that answers letters, emails, and phone calls. Thanks again, John. And if you need any help with our products in the future, just let us know. Sincerely, Terry M. Sugden. When Mike told me about Helen Johnson, the part he loved was the invitation to send an old-fashioned letter in this day and age. Not a website or a social media account, an actual street address in Wisconsin. He sharpened one of his favorite Western red cedar pencils, wrote his letter, stuck on a stamp, dropped it in the box, and waited, old school. I should mention that Mike and I both genuinely and unironically love these containers. And we've spent far too much time talking about why. Midlow isn't the first person to write about appreciating a reusable container. Some guy named Keats felt similar about a Grecian urn. And urns don't even have twist and lock technology. Odes, love letters, it's the same thing. If I was writing columns still, I'd probably turn this into a series. Try to drum up a letter writing campaign to finally reach the real Helen Johnson. Invite her out to Wallowa County, do some tests comparing twist and locks versus Talenti gelato jars, AKA Wallowa County Tupperware. Maybe a recipe contest for anything involving carrot wheels. There's just a plethora of ways you could go here. I encourage everybody to write the occasional love letter. It can be about a person, a place, a noun, I guess. It's awfully good medicine. But there's one thing I hope you take away from this little talk here tonight, and it's this. 1525 Howe Street, Howe, Racine, Wisconsin, 53403. That's Helen Johnson's address. And if you do manage to get through to her, please tell her Midlow and I think of her often and fondly. Thank you.
Now you know something that you didn't know before. They are remarkable. All right, we're going to take a break now. Thanks to our readers. Thanks, John. And thanks to all of you for coming out on this winter night. I hope you stick around for the open mic. We're going to take a break for about 10 minutes. There are a lot of yummy snacks back there. There were. Well, it's time to visit, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk in a minute.